disputed thing. Who is the firstborn, Jacob or Esau? And these are all the descendants of Jacob. And so God is confirming Jacob didn't swindle his brother into this, and he is truly the firstborn, because the firstborn means the purpose of the firstborn is to be, the firstborns were the priests of the entire family, prepare the offerings to God and would lead like the prayers and this and that and all that. Because it wasn't like organized religions, or just every firstborn of every family was like the spiritual one to inspire. And if the parents were gone or were elderly or whatever, he would become like a father. So honoring the firstborn is almost like the extension of honor your father and your mother.
Right.
So when God tells Moses,
That I didn't know.
there's every commandment there is in the Ten Commandments and the entire Torah have many ramifications. That's why when the Rabbis said that we should publicize the 7 universal laws known as the Noahide laws, he said it appears that these laws are mainly prohibitions, that 6 out of the 7 are prohibitions, only 1 is to do something, which is
The Noahide laws. What are those?
those are the 7 laws that God gave to mankind before there was a Torah given in Sinai. But when the Torah was given in Mount Sinai, they were reaffirmed and incorporated in the Torah. But those 7 commandments were given to Adam and Eve, and they're traditionally called.
I have information that the non-Jews
Before the Ten Commandments, right? The Noahide laws were given to Adam and Eve, and see, basically 10 generations after Adam and Eve, there was a guy by the name of Noah, right? So he was the only person that behaved and act like a human being made in the divine Noah's Ark, exactly. So God said, "This is the only righteous person here in his family. I'm going to preserve him and his family, his 3 sons and their wives, and they're going to create a new human family from these 3, and the rest are going to be wiped out because they misbehaved." What was the point of reference? It was the 7 Noahide. It was the 7 universal laws. So they're called Noahide. Noah. That's why, Noahide sounds like some kind of leather. Noahide, right? So we said the commandments that the Noah and his children followed. But God didn't give them to Noah. They were already known just he was the only person that still stayed true. And what are they? To not worship idols and believe only in God the Creator, to not disrespect God with our verbal words, to not blaspheme, to not murder, to not steal, to not do acts of immorality, to not be cruel to animals in the way that we would consume their meat and like a savage eat meat of an animal that's still alive. Which, you imagine who does that, right? In today's world, nobody does, but actually there are people, like I just got back from Mexico and they eat live seafoods that are still, it's like, but that's for savages. Savages eat like that, like tigers and lions and all that. But not human beings shouldn't eat like that. And then the last one is to create a court system of courts for the basically so there can be law and order, and these other commandments can be followed. So those are the 7 universal laws. So the Rebbe said, while they appear to be mainly prohibitions, don't do this, don't do that. Like don't believe in idols implies believe in God. So that's for every commandment, like honor your father and your mother, there's different applications. And so when God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, you see what's written in the books, right? The Bible's the most popular and most bestseller of all times. But that's just like a part. That's not the entire story. The other part of the story is what God explained to Moses when he was with him at the top of the mountain 40 days and 40 nights.
What part is this?
So this is the explanations of what Moses wrote in the Torah. It's just like when you go to school, you have a textbook,
So Moses helped.
and then you have a teacher that explains you what the textbook means and how you apply this and how you do the experiments and all that. So that's the what we call the oral Torah. That's the Torah that wasn't written originally, but was just explained to Moses. So when you have the written Torah and the oral Torah, then you can truly understand what the written Torah means and how you can apply it in daily life.
So are they different? Like radically different, or are they?
No, they just tell you how to do it. For example, how would we know that part of honoring your parents is to respect the firstborn son? Because there's a Torah that explained the firstborn son is like a priest. He's like a father and a mother when the father and the mother isn't there, and he has a responsibility. So what we were saying about what he said about what's that name, that little town
Vernon Hills.
in Vernon Hills. Did you hear what he said?
No.
Okay.
I can say it again.
Yeah. Basically, what he was saying is that there was a meeting of people that usually don't come to the synagogue and all that. Finally, they come out, and one person was saying, "Why don't these people come to the synagogue every day? Why do they just come out at the special event?" And the rabbi said, "They're not here for us. We're here for them." And so the firstborn, going back to the firstborn, what I said about God telling Moses, "You're going to get to tell Pharaoh that Jacob is my firstborn, and that means Jacob and his descendants are my firstborn," which means these people are like a nation of priests, a holy nation, a chosen nation. And later that was explained further. But a firstborn only has a job if there's other kids. If he's an only child, who's he going to serve? Who's going to get help? Who's going to tend? So in reality, the firstborn son also is only there because there's other kids. And so the Jews, we are here because there are 70 nations. And we're here for the nations, to be a light, to be a blessing, to be an inspiration and all that. So that's the point,
You really just my mind is like really expanded quite a bit. I never heard of the 7 laws.
Yeah, so it's crazy because they're the oldest laws given to Adam and Eve. Everybody should be knowing it, right?
I've never heard of it before.
And because this is another classic example, everyone knows about the Ten Commandments.
Right.
Thanks,
So the
thanks,
10 Commandments like
thanks to
essential-
Charleston Heston, right? Who made the Ten Commandments movie.
That's what I was really
Right. You know what I mean? So everyone knows about Ten Commandments because it's written in the text.
Right.
But the 7 Noahide laws, that's in the verbal Torah. We know it because there's an oral Torah that God gave to Moses.
Is that like verbally passed down?
From Moses to his disciple Joshua, from Joshua down to his disciples,
That's something like
all the way down to Rabbi Smith
so like
and Rabbi Chyrek, and he'll teach it to their disciples.
so the oral Torah is something that like you memorize?
So let's just give them back a little bit. So those of Noah are 4,125 years old. When he left the boat, and God told him, if you want this not to happen again, follow these. That's 4,125 years ago.
But they were known before.
They were known before, but they didn't keep them. So he tells
Well, only Noah and his kids kept them.
yes.
Right. That's what
Otherwise,
like,
what was the difference between him and anybody else? No one knew you can't steal.
Right.
The other people knew, but they didn't respect it.
And reinforming, you teach this to your kids, and this won't happen
Right.
again. You won't have to be able to society to continue to teach this to your kids. The other people did it. But you guys,
but God, did he also make a covenant with man that he would never flood the world again?
yes.
So it would have been a different way.
Yeah.
It just
But he
would've been
also
flooded.
told them, I'm not going to
He's not going.
but if you don't want things to happen in a different way, keep these 7. Then the 10 Commandments was exactly 3,333 years ago.
Wow.
That's 3,333 years ago now. He told him the written law. It's like a teacher telling you, write down these words. Keep this book, write down, that you have to like copy what the teacher was saying. Right? So that's not so long. You can read it in a few days. Right? So what does he need 40 days and 40 nights? But it wasn't just 40 days and 40 nights. It was actually 40 years in the desert. But yes, it was 40 years in the desert. Basically, they had a tabernacle, a tent in the desert, and the cloud used to go down. Moses used to get private lessons from God. So then he used to come out, and they used to hear it. God saying to him, Moses, Moses.
And Moses would even consult God. Like there was.
He asked his question.
Right.
He used to go out to the people and used to teach the lesson 4 times. Wow. So everybody had the written law, which they could read. It only takes a few days to read. But how do you apply this? So it was tuition. It was lessons 40 years. And then they used to teach it off by heart. off by heart. But what happened is during the Roman times, which was about 2,000 years ago, it started to become difficult for everybody to repeat and teach their kids. So that was the first time they started to write down the oral Torah. Because they realized it's difficult to live underneath the Romans. And people are going to start forgetting, you've got to write down. And that's when we became like the people of the book, because we started to write everything down. So till nowadays, we're writing more and more. Everything that my teachers, we write down.
And so there was
so many books now. But before there was
and so that's you probably heard of the Talmud, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
So the Talmud is the oral law that was just given over verbally. That's when the rabbis, when the Romans were destroyed the Second Temple, they said, we're in danger of losing this information, right? There was no Google Drives and Amazon, you know what I mean? We got to write it down first of all, record it somehow. So there was one group of rabbis that were in Iraq, in Babylon, and another one stayed in Israel. So they both wrote it down in the form of sort of discussions, answers, and questions.
That's how the Talmud was written.
That's how the Talmud. So you say, Rabbi so-and-so asked this, and the other rabbis said this, and the other rabbis opinion was that. And then, they're like going in circles, and it goes on and on and on. And to study the Talmud, just the one written in Iraq, the Babylonian Talmud, it takes 7 years to study.
Just to read it.
Just to read it.
Wait, hang on.
7 years it takes just to read it.
Is how many pages is this book?
It's 20 volumes.
20 volumes.
Yeah, but it's not, it's like legal notes. In other words, each line, you can have a discussion on each line.
You
Like
stay on one
thinking
line for like
question.
5, 6
It's not a
weeks.
book that you can read. It's like, makes you think. So it takes a very long time.
That's why attorneys even non-Jewish attorneys, sometimes will go to a rabbi and say, teach me Talmud, because they learn to use their minds to analyze and reanalyze, keep themselves very sharp, mentally agile. So, that's how it's learned. So it's still very much oral, and just someone can't just, okay, I want to take the Bible here and the Talmud there, and I'll know everything. So people that just go out there and buy a Bible and then they become preachers or whatever, sometimes they'll say things that go exactly in the opposite direction of what God really was saying, because they're just reading the text. They're saying an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Well,
But it's a little bit deeper.
you know what I mean? Let's get that eye out of that guy, because by accident he knocked out someone. It doesn't mean that out. Or oops, you punched him and the tooth come out. Bring some pliers. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It says the value of an eye, and the value of a tooth, and there's like pages and pages and volumes of what that means. But it does not mean a literal eye for eye and a little.
It's a lot deeper than that.
It's about the value it's about damages, pretty much. If you cause a certain,
You've significantly enlightened me.
and I'm not a rabbi. These guys are rabbis.
I
I'm just an IT consultant that sometimes listens to the
That's all
rabbis.
stuff I never knew. Because I've heard about the Talmud for many years, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was about. So it's a written Torah. I mean, it's a verbal Torah.
It's it's like when you go to the university.
Gotcha.
And you're going to become an engineer or a doctor or whatever the field is, law. You can't just, the teachers don't just say, okay, you're going to buy this book, that book. The test is on so day, and the final test is on that day. See you then. No, he's explaining for hours and hours, or she's explaining for hours and hours. Study chapter 1, and then there's a quiz. And did you guys understand? Now write an essay. Now let's go to the lab. And through all these exercises, people understand the theory and the main points. It's similar to that. But this is, God's Torah, not a professor. This is God Almighty, the Creator, who wrote something down, gave Moses to write it, and then he explained it to Moses, and Moses, gave it over. So it's much more powerful. There's no way you can understand the text without the oral explanation. There's so many commandments. What's an example? For example, there's a commandment to put, those things that Jews kiss that are by the door, mezuzah, right? So it says you'll put them you put them on your doorpost.
Sign.
As a sign on your doorpost. That's all the Torah says. You'll put this Torah as a sign on your. So does it mean? Yeah. So what's in there? there's many questions. Which doorpost? The right, the left, the top? What's the doorpost?
I always find it on the right.
Yeah, it's on the right. So how do we know it on the right? It's always on the top third of the door, and it's whatever. And then what's in it? So none of that's in the Torah. It just says put it.
I didn't know. I figured something was in there because I saw a lot of Jewish people touch it.
Exactly. So the oral Torah was the explanation of what part of the Torah goes in there, how it's written, and you can take it from here.
So God said, He gave a lesson and explained him all these details. How do you write it? Like the whole thing. And then Moses went outside and explained it 4 times. He had to actually do it. And people had to start doing it, get it right, and it's like a lot of details. It takes months to learn.
Right.
So that's a project in itself. That's why it takes.
So that's just one of the commandments in the Torah that you could never fulfill it because you don't know what to do. Okay, I want to put it as a sign. Put an X there, put a check mark. What do you mean a sign? Right.
It could mean anything.
It could mean anything. Right. Or there's another one. If you see this, when we put on these things on our arm, to fill in now. Okay. That's called to fill in. And there's another one that says you'll put them as frontlet between your eyes and a sign on your arm, on your hand. He says, okay. It's a commandment given to the Jews for, it's like the 10 Commandments. Even the 10 Commandments weren't given to all humanity, for example. It was the 7 laws that were given to everyone. And in the 10 Commandments, there was only Jews there. So the 10 Commandments, even though many of them apply to everyone, most of them not holy and not work that day, etc., etc. That doesn't apply. It's not if like a non-Jewish person is working on the Sabbath or driving a car on the Sabbath. It's no problem. He hasn't done something wrong in any way, shape, or form. But if a Jew is, the penalty is actually pretty severe. Let's put it that way. And so it's we have to understand who the audience is when you're putting out these things. And so like the 7 commandments that we talked about before have many different applications too. Like there's a commandment to not steal, right? A ramification of not stealing is if you find a lost object that can be easily identified, logically, reasonably identified and returned to its owner, it's part of that commandment to not steal. It's not like, hey, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. You saw the guy drop something there, and you could run behind him and say, hey, excuse me, right? And then there's laws on that, right?
The unlawful imprisonment is stealing people.
Yes.
So you have to be really careful not to unlawfully lock a person in.
Yes.
Anything, because then I'm stealing a person.
And then also, what's it called? Kidnapping. Kidnapping is also is under stealing.
It's also stealing time.
Yeah, it's stealing time. It's stealing. So there's so many ramifications under these 7, and so it's important to study them and understand them, know how to apply them.
It's a very interesting conversation.
Because
as a Christian, this is like really expanding. So it's very nice to know.
Because the central idea for all the 7 is to create a world which is workable. Because God wanted a framework, an infrastructure where people can actually live
peacefully, happily, respectfully.
And without these 7, you can't build. Society cannot build. So therefore, anybody who says, okay, I'm not breaking any of these 7, but I'm going to do things to help build society. So they're fulfilling the spirit of the 7. Anything you do to help build the structure, the infrastructure of the society is part of the spirit of these 7 commandments. Oh, but there's one caveat. It has to be done because God commanded so.
Yes. Through Moses. On Mount Sinai.
That's a very important thing. So there was lawyers. There's a big lawyer now that they were discussing what's going on in the world, a German lawyer. And somebody pointed out to him that you have to make morals outside of human decisions. Because if it's not like something outside of us, then we can play with it and justify bad things. But if it's God that's giving us these morals, so then humans can't play with it anymore.
Right. It's like that's it. It's final.
It's final.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very important to keep these 7 commandments because God said so. And then there's no playing around. There's no discussion. Somebody won't be able to corrupt them anymore. That's why it's so fundamental to say that it's because God said so. God told our grandfather, Noah is all our grandfather, all relatives. He said, tell all your kids to keep these 7 because I said so. Now we can't play with it. Now it's not corruptible. Now we have a robust society. But once a human can decide what's moral and not moral, so then we can be driven in a direction.
Which is where we are right now.
Right. So it can't be human. It's superhuman. These morals are superhuman. And yeah, that's
The spiritual morals.
spiritual morals given by God, and therefore they're not negotiable. And then where it's a robust system. The Rebbe said that when did the Holocaust really start? It started in the 1800s where they took out God from the educational system.
And look where we are today.
Yeah. He says that
It's like history repeating itself.
So what is the fundamental point of the 7 commandments is that point of God. Once you have the God, then everything else is stems from that.
Want some cookies? They're really good. Sure. You look real sharp. I like your soup, man.
Everything flows from that one point. Except God, and that He wants something from the world. That he's in charge. He runs he's a supervisor.
It's open.
However, He wants us to do something in the world. He wants us to create that structure. He doesn't. He gives us this opportunity and this challenges that we could either break or keep these. We could either create a structure or destroy it. But He's giving us that opportunity. He wants us to take partnership in His creation. So, wow, it's free for us.
I gotta hang with you guys more often. I'm not
see,
a lot right now.
you said you were Christian.
Yeah.
See, because Judaism isn't really a religion per se.
It's more like a way of life.
It's we're part of a nation and a family, and we have our customs and traditions and all that. But in reality, the entire human family is part of that family.
Right.
Just that, going back to the original point I was saying, there's a firstborn and there's only one firstborn. You can't have 3 firstborns, right?
Unless they're twins.
No, even
Well,
so,
no,
even
no,
so,
no.
even
That's
so.
true. One of
And
them
I have
comes
twins. I have twin
Oh, so it's like,
7-year-olds.
one of them comes first.
And always one came out first. So there's one firstborn, and that firstborn has a purpose. So when God told Moses, Jacob is my firstborn, and you're going to tell Pharaoh, what does Pharaoh care about? Because Pharaoh was the Donald Trump, or he was like the most famous person of his time, of the most powerful nation of his time. And whatever Pharaoh publicized and knew and recognized was known in the entire world. So he was basically saying, you're going to tell the entire world that the Jewish people are, he didn't mean Jacob, the person, but Jacob and his descendants are the firstborn. They're a nation of priests. But why are they there? Because there's more children who to tend and who to inspire and who to take care of and all that. So getting to the point, as a Christian, so much of the faith and the getting others to join the club is because if you don't, what's the alternative? What's going to happen, right? It's all based on fear. You'll burn, you'll be lost, your sins won't be forgiven, and all the other things. And so in the Jewish faith, if you want to call it like that, even though from the 7 commandments and all that, it's not about fear. It's not about joining a club. You don't see, anyone saying, "Hey, wouldn't you like to be Jewish, man?" Yeah. Has someone gone up to do that? Why? Because we don't think we're better than you, or that you need to change what you are already. Right. And so, basically, the purpose. And he's saying, "But what's going to happen when I die, for example? Right? What's going to happen, right?"
Good question.
Yeah. And so the answer is, if you followed the 7 laws and you behaved yourself, you're gonna be fine. And if you didn't, what happened? then you're gonna have to, basically you'll be a little embarrassed, right? Or very embarrassed, whatever it is. But
I think you'd be more than embarrassed.
so what happens then, and this is a very interesting thing, is each person is a soul, right? And so the soul is eternal because the soul is actually part of God.
Right.
So the soul, when it goes back to the world of souls and it didn't fulfill its mission, guess what? It's very embarrassed. That's hell. That's feeling shamed and all that. And so what happens then is that soul gets a chance to say, okay, you did almost everything right. You did 80% right in your life, or 20%, or 99%. But if there was one part that you still needed to improve, you get sent back. And so we all realize that most of us here around the table, this is not our first time here. We've been here perhaps a few times, 2 times. But that shouldn't make us crazy how many times and all that, or who am I and all that. That's one of the things that we believe and helps us understand that, you have those deja vu moments, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I've
been there, like I've seen this guy.
Yeah.
You have this feeling, you can't explain it. The reason why is because you have been here. And, even your children, those kids, and this is from the Talmud, children, in a sense, choose and are given like a preview, get a preview of a movie that's, you want to see the trailer? Okay. So they're shown the trailer of who their families are going to be. There's going to be your father, your mother, how they behave, houses you're going to live in, your siblings. And then they get the soul. Okay, you're going to do it? Ready? You're going to take the pill and boom, fly down there. And so they have to buy into it. So when the kids get here, these souls, put their, especially for us who are parents, these precious souls put their faith in us, that they were going to come here and be part of our household, and that we were going to build the family together. They're like our kids that we created. We did certain things to form a vessel in which the soul could come into the world, but they're God's souls. So we believe all the souls of every human being, from Adam, because we all came from those original big souls that we made. We're all family. We're all holy. We're all good. Our souls don't need salvation. What we need salvation is from the IRS. What we need salvation from the guys trying to chase after you, give you the jab, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need salvation from. But the soul is holy, so much so that even if we are in great dark times and we're restricted from, living the lives that we want to do, our bodies might be restricted, but our soul is always free. So, there's been famous people that have gone to jail for whatever reason, but, they said, I was there, my body was there, but I was free somewhere else. God wanted me to be here for whatever reason. So I'm happy here, and I know I'm going to go out. And I just got back from Mexico, where we went actually to the prisons. The main prison there, it's not a big town.
Curiosity, what were you doing in prison?
We were there to give free shoes for the children, for the prisoners of the children, because of visitation day on Sunday. So there's it's not a Jewish organization, but we work with them that, bought like 200 and some shoes to give to the kids and prisoners. So they had already asked what sizes people are and all that. So they gave them up. But while I was there, we sang some songs and I said a little speech in Spanish to the prisoners. And I said, and it was during the time that we were studying the Torah, the section with Joseph, who was also in prison. I said, claro que sí.
Oh, wow.
So I told them in Spanish the story. I said, guys, you might be here today, but there was a person named Joseph who was in prison for the wrong reason. You might be here for the wrong reason or whatever, but we're not going to get into that. But this is just a stage in your life that will soon pass, and you shouldn't lose your dreams. Joseph had dreams that he was going to do great things in his life, and it all appeared his dreams went down the tubes. But Joseph passed that period in his life, and actually his dreams were fulfilled even greater than he could even ever imagine. And so, just to tell them, you could be here, but you can't lose your spirit, your hope, and your connection. It was family day, so the parents were there, the kids were there. So, this is gonna pass, and you're gonna be with your families eventually, and you'll have your chance. In the meantime, to be happy inside.
Also another thing that's important, that anybody that keeps the seven commandments because God said so. So not only they have the will to come, but even if they pass away, when the resurrection of the dead happens, they will stand up. Their bodies will stand up from the dead and join the world to come.
That'd be really cool.
That's a very important point.
So that's an important
It's a very
motivator
important
to keep
point.
the seven commandments because God said so. Come back because they're going to everybody all
They
people,
have a portion
all
of it.
mankind that kept it because God said so will come back to the so.
And what's interesting is in Jewish thought, the world to come isn't the world of souls in heaven. That world's always there. And so people, say, God forbid, someone passes on.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, no, the world to come is here. And those people that went temporarily there to hang out with the souls, but their bodies is here resting in a cemetery somewhere, will be raised up again. And then this is where the real party of the world to come is. It's not over there. It's here in a physical reality, but it won't be a physical reality like we're experimenting here. The whole world will be transformed.
Basically, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, awesome, because the whole world will be a holy world, but it'll be different. Like right now, you have a holy land because God made it holy. It's nothing that anybody did there made it more or less holy because God made it holy. But the world to come, mankind, through the seven commandments and doing God's will have transformed the world into making it holy. So when you are a part of a project, instead of just coming down as a gift, you appreciate it so much more. Like if you build your own house, if you were part of it and were part of the plans and the working and the arranging and the decorating and all that, when your house is done, it's so much more beautiful than if you just walked in and it was like, here's the keys, and you had nothing to do with the house. You actually got to be part of that transformation. So that's what God gives us the opportunity to transform and make the world a better place, but with our sweat and blood and effort to do it. And then we'll appreciate it so much more than a world that just was made, boom, holy, by a magical wand or by the act of God.
Yeah.
And that's why Adam and Eve in the garden, even though it appears, everything was perfect, why did they have to ruin the whole thing? They hadn't gotten to the place where God actually sent them on their mission. The Garden of Eden was just like a holding stage of like a bubble. It
was another level they never saw.
It was a bubble inside a different world that they had to actually rectify. But, and Eve was the smart one. She said, listen, talk to the serpent and I figured this out. This is not our place. It's out there in the physical dimension. We're not there yet. And so when God said to Adam, what'd you do? And he said,
listen to her.
She's the smart one here. And she explained it, but not in a facetious way, in a real way. I said, okay, so it wasn't a punishment. So now that you know and you've made the decision, you go out to the lowest of all dimensions. Child labor is going to be hard. You're going to have to
work for everything.
Going to work for everything. There's going to be death and pain and but it's not that he stopped loving us.
This is what it is.
Or caring for us. It's just
it is what it is.
Yeah.
You made the decision.
And so that original sin is really the most greatest act of bravery to actually take on God's mission. But he didn't put him there straight away because he wanted it to be their decision. That's the free choice. You can, if you don't eat of that, because when you do, you're going to die and you're out. But he said, when you eat of it, not if, when you eat of it, like telling them you're going to do it, you're going to figure out eventually. Might be today, might be in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. Who knows? They figured it out fast because they were smart. They were like, we were there in the souls. This is all perfect. There's basically nothing to do except just lay in a hammock and
you know what?
Swing the breeze.
It's like, I can sit in the sun all day, talk to the birds. Or,
right. But if that's all you have to do, right? That's nice to refresh. Like I just got back to Cancun and that was nice, but I wasn't actually doing that again when I was working. But people go to vacation to refresh, to restrain themselves, but only to come back and do something. The people that are just there all the time no longer even appreciate it.
No, it's like they see it every day. The beach is here, sun's over there, surfing over there. After a while, you don't care anymore.
It says that He is everything and everything is Him. God is everything. We're sort of inside of God. So imagine a tree and a red bench and water next to the bench. You can imagine these things. So God is imagining us, and that's how we're coming in. Just we're inside God. So He is everything. God is everything, right? But everything is Him.
Then it's up to us
So
to do
what is the
what
difference?
we're supposed to do once we're there.
Study
He'll just get us.
about God. Everything in the world, whatever
You put us there, boom,
study
face to face.
You're learning something about God. Like if I would go into your house, and I would, from the things you chose in your house, I'd learn something about you.
Right.
And I'll start to get to know you by the things that you chose. So we don't see God, but when we analyze the world, we start
see
knowing
him.
Him.
Yeah.
Start knowing God. So it says that very soon. What's the idea when Mashiach comes? The point is not salvation so much. It's just like the opportunity where everybody will be busy learning about God, like going deeper into this reality and learning some other things about God.
You guys leaving?
Yeah,
Probably.
I'm
What's
their
your name again?
I'm their driver, Moshe.
Moshe. You know, it's funny. The guy who works on the PR team, same name, Moshe.
Moshe.
Yeah, let me give you my card. I want to say
Thank you.
contact. That was a very good
Yeah, I'll
conversation.
send you a WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
I don't know if you have my card as well, but I'll leave my card with you.
Nice card, I love it.
It's simple. $4 at Staples.
It's a good design.
I try.
Nice to meet you.
Design
I'll send you a
myself.
little WhatsApp.
Moshe, please do. Please do.
Yes.
But stay in contact. That was a very fantastic conversation.
My
Thank you so much. I
pleasure.
learned a lot.
God
I really learned
bless.
a lot.
We all learn from each other.
Yes.
Now, just a moment before we are done. You are here because you are like me, not satisfied with the condition of the world and the Jewish people, objecting to the direction that confused people are running in, and intent on seeing God Almighty's vision for the world fulfilled. Torah is a manual for action, and we are taking action. At RabbiSmith.org, we have one goal: to connect every man, woman, and child with God Almighty. This is the only way forward, and that includes you. RabbiSmith.org has 2 tracks, one for non-Jews and one for Jews. My job is to help point you to the truth, that not only is the divine spark in you bursting out, but you have loving responsibility to those around you, and they will thrive from your clarity and your orientation. Now, join at RabbiSmith.org. We have new initiatives starting. We have just started a weekly class, Amunah, Faith in Action, to shepherd our faith and learn how to shepherd the faith of those around us. Videos, audios, materials, and newsletters. But most importantly, a relationship. The relationship of one person wanting the best for another and taking action to make that happen. At RabbiSmith.org, I will be asking you to make a personal undertaking to share what you learn with others and to spread the message of hope to every person, and to make a small daily contribution to support our joint vision and mission. Join us as we get the world on track for Mashiach, for redemption, and make it unfold. Enroll at RabbiSmith.org, and I will see you there.